episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
This is Season 8, Episode 10.
Or Episode 176 if you're counting.
I think I finally got this microphone pointed in the right direction for us to actually be loud and audible and stuff. That would be great.
You pointed the mic at us.
Yeah. Go figure.
What a concept.
That's all it takes to actually make it work properly. Thank you as always to the Patreon contributors at patreon.com/MarsGirl who make this and so many other things that we do possible. Still got a couple request reviews coming up and some other things that are not request reviews. They are my things.
Your things are important.
My things that I want to talk about in the near future. Those are things that are happening. What else is happening? Oh, please don't do that. No, for real. Please tell me what's happening.
What's happening right now is we're doing the show, but we did other stuff earlier this week. For example, I know some people might be going out to see King Arthur, Legend of the Sword this weekend. We actually got to see it on Tuesday night from a sneak preview screening. Unfortunately, it was one of those screenings that was very limited seating, so we were right up against the screen.
Front row center, that was
very
us.
cushy chairs.
Oh, the fantastic chairs, but it doesn't matter when...
Yeah, this was us for 2 hours trying to watch a Guy Ritchie movie.
Oh, my neck.
And because it's a Guy Ritchie movie, that editing is all over the place.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you are straining.
Fantasy bullet time and everything.
Yeah, so you are straining to catch up with what's going on screen, which probably was hard enough in the back row.
Yeah.
That's not to say the movie was bad. It was okay.
It was a Guy Ritchie movie.
It was a Guy Ritchie movie.
What can I say?
So if you like Guy Ritchie movies, go check that one out.
Yeah, like you already pretty much know whether or not you like his movies.
Pretty much, yeah. So if you liked the first Sherlock Holmes, you'll probably like this.
Maybe.
Maybe. And then, of course, this weekend we got to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which we'll talk a little bit about here in the follow-ups. And again, we're not going to review it. You know, this is a talk show, but we will talk a little bit. Yeah, I cried a lot more than I thought I would. The emotional parts of this one hit me a lot more.
They built it well.
They built it quite well.
It wasn't cheap. It was good.
No, and for what it's worth, the one-liners throughout the movie, there's one in particular that's been going around a lot. I'm not going to say it right now, although I probably could say it and you wouldn't understand the context, but it was... Yeah,
it's one of the best jokes in the movie.
It is one of the best jokes in the movie, so I'm not going to ruin that for you, our viewing audience.
Because the internet probably has actually already done it.
No, the internet did it to me.
The internet just... It took off.
Oh, yeah, because as soon as people saw it Thursday night, like, I was seeing it on my Twitter timeline right after we were done with the show, and I'm like, what are they talking about? Thankfully, I didn't look into it any further. That way, when we saw it 2 days later, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah,
I see what you're doing there.
Exactly.
But it was a good movie. Definitely go check that out.
Yeah, please do. Yes.
And then, of course, this weekend there was... we're down to our last 2 episodes of this last season of Samurai Jack.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Every episode is so good.
And people are mad about this one.
Well, I think it's unjustified.
I think it's unjustified, too. I'm happy.
I'm thrilled. I think most people are thrilled, and only a small amount of people are not.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, like, for what it's worth, like, hey, you know what? You want to give Jack a love interest? He's been at this for 50 years. He's earned some happiness, all right?
He's allowed.
He's
totally allowed.
Let him live, all right? Let him live with happiness. He's been living, but let him live happy.
Yeah, not even mad.
Not even mad.
Not even mad.
Especially the well-timed use of everybody needs somebody sometime.
Love somebody sometimes.
Love somebody. Well, that's part of it, too.
I don't recall. Well, okay.
Those are part of the lyrics, too.
Okay, that's fine.
So yeah, watching a lot of things.
Yeah,
we've
spent a lot of time watching stuff, and I've spent a lot of time playing White Knight Chronicles because I'm supposed to be reviewing White Knight Chronicles 2. So I'm halfway through the first game.
Because you're that kind of person. You have to play through the first one.
Well, no, they even told me I need to play the first one first.
But you would have done it anyway.
Well, I wouldn't have had any context for the second one.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been fair. It wouldn't have been right.
Yeah.
I couldn't have given an appropriate review.
Alright.
Yes, don't judge me. Gosh, what is wrong with you?
I can judge you all I want. Nobody judges me.
Yeah, people would need to hear the story in order to get the joke behind nobody judges me.
Inside
jokes don't...
But we've told that joke here on the show.
During Q&A, not during the show.
Okay, alright.
That doesn't make sense to anybody watching on YouTube later on right now.
Well, that's why people on YouTube should come out on Thursday nights to the chat afterward, so I can explain that story.
Alright, good job.
See the segue there?
It wasn't that good.
That was smooth.
We should probably talk about what we're going to be talking about.
Do we have to?
Yes, that's what we do every week.
All right, then we should do that.
Okay.
So this first story that we're talking about, for what it's worth, would normally be covered on Radio Dead Air because it takes place in Florida.
That stupid stuff that happens in Florida. We had an 11-year-old who ended up with a bag of meth inside his copy of Grand Theft Auto 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how did that happen? We're gonna discuss how and why that happened. We're gonna talk about how that happened. And whether or not this is a trend.
Meth in my GTA 5? More likely than you think.
Secondly, apparently we weren't gonna be getting a third Hellboy movie, but that doesn't mean we're not gonna get another Hellboy movie. It's getting rebooted. We're gonna talk about, like, why a reboot instead of the third movie, and who's doing it, because it's not the people who were doing it before. And, so new Hellboy, that's another new thing. Maybe it'll be okay.
Maybe. Yes, and then our third story for the evening. Now, admittedly, yes, we have covered the Power Rangers reboot here very much on the show, but the movie still has yet to open in several different markets, one being China just this weekend, and then more specifically Japan in July. So they've started some PR for the Japanese release, and the PR might be a little bit misleading, given what the movie actually has as far as content. So we're going to talk about how they're marketing it to Japanese fans and how that might not line up with their expectations.
Yeah, I feel like we can talk quite a bit about that,
Quite
actually.
a bit.
So,
I got some words.
Yeah, so let's save some good time for that near the end. Until then, I know you, as always, have some good follow-ups for us. Please go ahead.
Let's go for it. Okay, follow-ups. First and foremost, DC news. So let's go ahead and start off with Wonder Woman. So we got two things out of Wonder Woman. Of course, this weekend we got the final trailer for the Wonder Woman movie coming out at the beginning of next month. This new trailer looks good. I can say that without pause. It looks good. It actually looks like the Wonder Woman movie I was hoping they would make.
Yeah, so there was all this complaint that we weren't seeing a whole heck of a lot of advertisement for a Wonder Woman film.
Yes.
And I do think it's true that it is still a little under-advertised in comparison to other hero movies, but it got better right after people started complaining about it, and then they unleashed, like, all these posters and then that trailer
this being
stuff.
one of them here of her deflecting bullets with her gauntlets. But the thing about it, yes, we've got this new trailer which looks way better, way more accurate than any other recent DC Extended Universe movie. On top of that, early reports are tracking that it's looking like it's going to have a $65 million opening, which isn't anything to scoff at. That's good. Hopefully it'll be a little higher than that, especially for Warner Brothers and DC's sake, since they do kind of have to save face leading into Justice League.
Of course.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk some DC TV news. So, interesting news here. Sight unseen, Black Lightning has been picked up for a full season.
Huh, interesting. They must be really confident about it.
They must be. Admittedly, we do have several shows over there on the CW already, and this is just another one they're going to add to the roster. I just think it's interesting that we haven't gotten anything out of it yet. And they're like, no, full season. Go ahead. You got it. I'm like, I guess they must trust the crew enough or something they've seen so far. In regard to that, over on Fox's end of things, they have agreed to let Gotham go on for another season.
Why?
And I wonder, I wonder
when
why.
When does this end? Does it make the ratings?
Apparently it does, given how wildly off the track they are from the source material. Like, Riddler's already there, Bruce is kind of sort of already training.
It's on Fox, right?
Yes.
I was confused between Fox and CW for like a second. But, I want to say that people who watch Fox for the most part just want to watch, like, crap go down. And I don't really care where the source material is or where it all comes from. And I really think the people who must be watching it, for the most part, must not actually be comic fans. Now, I'm certain that they exist. The comic fans that do, in fact, watch and enjoy Gotham, or those who hate watch. Because, hate watching.
I was hate watching for a little bit, then I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't. But I just couldn't keep up with it. Now, so that's Fox and CW. They're doing pretty well. Their shows are getting renewed, brought up for other seasons. NBC, not so lucky. So we knew this was on the track, but they have confirmed NBC's Powerless has been canceled. due to nobody watching.
Like, who's really surprised?
I'm not surprised in the slightest.
Yeah.
It didn't look good.
I didn't hear anything about it after they initially said we're making Powerless. Like, I heard nothing.
Like, I watched
that.
like 2 clips of it, and I'm like, Ron Funches, Danny Pudi, you guys are better than this. Like, come on now. Really? Nah. Okay, so that's all our DC news. Let's go ahead and get into our Marvel news. Guardians of the Galaxy, as we were talking about, just opened this weekend. They have hit the $500 million mark very quickly. Of course, this weekend's box office adding to that. Also, they're starting to air the new ads for the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout over in Disneyland, which will be opening later on this summer. I really do want to check that out.
Yes.
It's based on the old Tower of Terror ride they just built around it.
So my hope is that it's not too different, it's just themed fun.
Yes.
You know? Because I really enjoyed Tower of Terror, and I enjoyed the Twilight Zone theme to it. And thankfully, only Disneyland is making that change.
Right.
The Disney World
still has the Tower of Terror.
It's not at Epcot, it's at
Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, it's still Twilight Zone themed, and I'm grateful for that. So if you just go to a different place, and they're not both different, if they're different from each other, then that's cool.
Fine.
It's a different experience. That's fine with me.
Okay, in other news, we've got some more promotion for Spider-Man Homecoming. Of course, we saw a preview this weekend with the MTV Movie Awards showing Peter trying to sneak back into his room, and then his friend Ned finding out his secret that he is the wall crawler there in the Marvel Universe. We also got this promotional poster, which you'll see here, very obviously is an homage to the first issue of Spider-Man there in Amazing Fantasy, which would eventually become Marvel Comics. Nice to see that they're doing that throwback here, especially when we've got the web wings there under the armpit. Nice to see that they're remembering where they come from.
Exactly.
Here.
I think it's probably one of the most parodied and recreated comic book covers, though.
Next to Superman.
So, I would say that it's pretty well in the ether what that image looks like.
Yes, so good for them for knowing where they came from. Of course, it's Marvel. You expect as much. Also, interesting news here coming out of FXX, the spin-off network from FX. Donald Glover has signed on, who of course has a role there in Spider-Man Homecoming, has signed on to be executive producer for a 10-episode Deadpool cartoon.
A cartoon?
Yes. So it is aimed at adults. So we'll have
because I would imagine if it's going on FXX...
Yeah, they got some more leeway. Now, granted, this wouldn't be the first time Deadpool has shown up in a Marvel cartoon property. He just can't do all of the Deadpool things he normally does, other than just be wacky. But now he'll cuss and kill all he likes. And that's fine. Yes. That's how people like their Deadpool.
Usually, these days anyway.
Yes. Yeah. So we've got that to expect out of FXX. Also, let's go ahead and get into our sci-fi news. So over on the Alien end of things, we're of course waiting for Alien Covenant to come out next weekend. Ridley Scott has confirmed that they're going to work on at least 2 more movies in the Alien Covenant timeline. So the way that'll work, as far as he's concerned, it's Alien Covenant. Then we get 2 more movies. Then that'll butt up against the original Alien.
Oh man, that's quite a lot of space.
See, I don't think they could fit that in there, because this one, much like Rogue One, at least to me from the previews, looks like it's right up against...
Well, then again, we haven't seen it.
Well, yeah, that's true. So, maybe he's got some more story to tell in there. Maybe.
I'm just wondering, because I'm also hearing that Alien Covenant is basically just another Alien movie, and so what new things can you put? It's not that I don't think there's not enough timeline space in between. It's that what more new stuff can you do in between anymore?
Right, I would agree.
I just think it's finally gonna get old.
Okay, so moving on to other news. Of course, we'd be remiss not to mention the new Blade Runner 2049 trailer that dropped just this week, sounding very much like the original Blade Runner. In my book, not nearly as dark looking overall. I mean, some of it does line up to look like, yeah, you came from the same cloth, but it looks a little too new to me.
Maybe so. I mean, that's just the direction that Hollywood has gone in general. That's just the technology.
Now,
I don't think there's any avoiding it.
Now, I could be wrong. It could be a case like with Mad Max Fury Road, where it looks clearly different, but then when I watch the movie, no, this is clearly Mad Max. Hopefully that's the case here with Blade Runner 2049, where...
Yeah, we'll find out.
Where you watching like, okay, then I'm fine. I had nothing to worry about. Okay, over with Jurassic World 2 news. So we've got a little more information from Jeff Goldblum speaking about Ian Malcolm returning to the franchise, that he'll be joining the cast very shortly to get to work on that, and that overall the tone of it will still go back to him arguing against the greed that oversees why these dinosaurs are being put into production there at the park.
So, same as always.
Same as always, which is pretty much what you were hoping for, I would think.
I guess so, but at the same time, I don't like the idea of retreading old ground. Like, at this point, the only reason why I liked Jurassic World was because my concern was that it was going to try to be Jurassic Park again, and you can't recapture that magic. And I was halfway right. It did not recapture that magic, but it did become a good monster movie, and so it was just a good, fun popcorn flick. So if it's gonna try and retread old ground, no, don't do that.
Now,
do Jurassic World
funny you should
stuff.
mention that. He does mention here in a quote that the whole world that they're setting up continues to be popular slam bang top entertainment, and that I'll be bringing some of my deep thinking to that in my character. So he fully admits what this is.
Deep thinking.
Well, because, you know, he's there...
Bam, thank you, ma'am, entertainment.
Which is what what Jurassic World was.
But deep thinking...
To juxtapose that.
Okay, why not? Go ahead, Jeff. Just whatever you want, I guess, because they'll let you do whatever you feel like.
They'll kind of let him do...
Because you're Jeff Goldblum. Okay,
and then other news interesting to see here is that we're getting news now of a live-action Judge Dredd TV series, which we've got a poster for here, titled Mega City 1. Now, this has no connection to any other existing Dredd property, so unfortunately Carl Urban fans are going to wait a little longer on this one.
Right.
It's still developing right now, so hopefully we'll understand where they're going with it, if it's going to keep to that same more realistic aesthetic, or they're going to go more comic booky like the Sylvester Stallone version.
I mean, I would just kind of like a combination of the two. I think it could be done. I really think it could be done. Now, granted, I didn't think I was going to like Dredd. And then I went into it and I realized, nah, this was way better than I was expecting. Which says a lot, considering that dang director and his Power Slash Rangers and his upcoming Castlevania that I'm halfway looking forward to and halfway concerned about.
Now, admittedly, I think part of the... And we talked about this. The reason you probably enjoyed Dredd as much is because you hadn't seen the Raid Redemption beforehand.
No, that's right, because then we went back and we watched the Raid Redemption on, what, Netflix or something?
Or we rented it recently.
Yeah.
And you could see where the pull was from that movie for the tone of Dredd.
Yes.
So there's some clear-cut influence there, but hopefully this will be its own thing unto itself, and a good addition to the Judge Dredd mythos. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about a little anime news. This is an interesting thing that we're hearing about here, that Universal and Sony Pictures are looking to buy in for a franchise deal with Funimation.
What franchise?
A couple in particular, notably Dragon Ball. So we don't know yet what this means yet. We're just hearing the basic outlines of what a deal could be between them.
Wait. So they want to license anime that Funimation has to then make film properties out of them?
That's what it's sounding like.
Oh no!
Now,
anime is such dangerous film territory.
It's dangerous territory.
Dragon Ball already bombed
But the thing about it is, everyone's aware of it, and everybody's even more aware of how Ghost in the Shell is only doing mediocre in reviews and doing poorly at the box office.
And see, that's the thing. Yeah, it's doing poorly in the box office, and yet I'm gonna sit here and say it's probably one of the closest anime to film adaptations we've ever had.
I will agree with you on
that. But
that.
everybody, hands down, agrees that Dragon Ball Evolution was the worst anime to film adaptation we have ever had. Ever.
So we're gonna keep an eye on this as it develops. We wanted to let you guys know about this now. That way, if something does come up, we let you guys know it was on the horizon. So yes, we'll be keeping an eye on that one as it develops. Okay, a little bit of gaming news. So Overwatch fans have a lot to look forward to with these recent leaks talking about the new 1-year anniversary mark promotion that they're going to be having. Another leak, thanks to Xbox, you know, just like last time with Uprising, showed there's going to be different things allowable there as far as loot is concerned. They're already talking about a legendary skin for Symmetra coming up. In addition to that, we've got some updates to the game, such as voice lines they're going to be adding for the newest character, Orisa, as well as giving Sombra the much-asked-for sit emote that everybody's been asking for as well.
And on top of all that, we had briefly looked over and discussed whether or not we would turn it into a story, but we just thought we've talked about a lot of Overwatch lately.
Which we have, yeah.
The fact that there are esports teams that have been pulling out of the upcoming Overwatch League that they're trying to set up, and arguably that's because it's costing them like $20 million to put their teams into the league, and they don't want to deal with that, and Blizzard has kind of said, they've not said that that's not true, but they have said people are speaking before we've given any information, so...
Now, mind you, that was, how much did you say, 15 million?
15 million's the bottom rung.
Now, understand...
20 million, maybe higher in places like LA and New York.
Like, 20 million, understand what that means in Overwatch terms, that's 4 legendary skins. That's high.
Thanks, I don't... Okay.
It's a joke about pricing.
Yes, I understand.
Alright, so let's move on to some Tokusatsu news here. We got our first look at a picture here of the newest poster for the Gavan Deca Ranger team-up movie.
It looks like a pretty boss poster.
That's a pretty boss poster, especially considering you've got the updated design for Mad Gallant there, a Metal Hero villain. Very much looking forward to this. It's nice that Deca Ranger is being revamped and revived, whole cast being back, and they're getting all these new adventures so many years down the road.
Yeah.
Because Hurricane Ranger only got the one movie. Deca Ranger, this is going to be the second one after the fact from the franchise being... having gone on 10 years past its run. So very happy to see that. Of course, we're dealing with the new Gavan there. Very happy to see that. Looking forward to when it comes out.
Yes.
And then, of course, over on Kamen Rider Exade news. So this photo has been going around for the last day or two, and we wanted to go ahead and run it by you guys. What we have here is a suit actor there on the set of Exade, which is, of course, filming right now. It is not Exade himself. What we're seeing here is a very noticeable backpack of Boxo Bike, the Gashot used by Kamen Rider Laser, and based off the other news that we've been hearing, story-wise, and things coming out of Toei, people are being led to believe, this hasn't been confirmed yet, that this is a level 0 Kamen Rider Laser having been revived in the series. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying what I see there looks like Laser.
Just because it's level 0 doesn't mean it's actually his body in there.
That's true, too.
It could just be some other person.
It could be. I'm just saying, I got hopes. I got dreams.
Wait for them to get crushed.
Man, you just no chill with you.
No, never.
You can't just let me be happy.
Well, we don't know whether or not there's...
Let me have hope!
This guy.
I need hope. I don't want... I haven't seen Wizard in years. I need actual hope.
Okay, is there anything else?
No, that was it. Let's go ahead and get into the first story.
There's one thing that'll give you hope. Meth!
I don't know that it'll give me hope. It'll give me something.
Something, yes. So, earlier this week, this was, of course, where else would it be? Florida. So a parent took her 11-year-old son to a GameStop in Florida and...
That should be the end of the story there.
Yeah, it should be the end of the... She bought him a copy of Grand Theft Auto 5.
That should be the end of the story there.
Yeah, like, here's our first problem. Like, the game is rated M for mature, which means that had that kid walked in, like, all by himself... they would not have sold him that game because you have to be 17 years old at least in order to make a purchase of Grand Theft Auto 5. But the mom's like, yeah, okay, there's hookers and sex scenes and drug deals and murder and theft and all kinds of really horrible things in here. Sure, here you go, kid. So that's the first problem.
The 11-year-old kid, like, what are you playing, kid? Like, shouldn't you be playing, like, Lego games, Skylanders?
Apparently he's playing Xbox One, is what he's playing.
Okay, the mom got him an Xbox One, but you could be playing something... Play Minecraft. You know, that's safe. Why aren't you playing Minecraft?
I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, parents can't make that judgment for their kids for whether or not he's 6 years too early to be playing a game like this. I mean, I'd say at least put him on some games that are T for teen first, before you get him on some M-rated. But that's technically neither here nor there. Because...
Well, it's not here, it's there in Florida.
It's there in Florida. Because, apparently, you know, the kid brought the game home, opened it up, went to go put the game in the machine, but then he comes out of his room with a bag of white powder, and he says, "Mom, what's this?" And
it was meth.
And it was meth.
Crystal meth.
And she posted on Facebook saying, "Today took my son to GameStop in Tallahassee to trade in games and get some new ones. When he opened the booklet inside one of the pre-owned games, my 11-year-old son, that I bought an M-rated game for, found this! A bag of effing meth! Clearly the game was not properly checked when it was traded in, and because of the carelessness, I could have lost a child. Thankfully, he brought it right to us and said, 'What is this?'" And, like, you might be wondering, oh, this sounds pretty fakey, but there's a police report here.
Like, this was real.
This was real.
The police verified it was real meth.
Yeah.
It wasn't some, like, joke, blue, I forget the proper term for it, but the blue version of the meth that they sell in Breaking Bad, which, you know, some people use, like, rock candy to make. No, this was actual crystal meth. This was a punishable offense drug that they found.
6 grams.
6 grams.
They found 6 grams in this thing. And so, GameStop PR has not responded to requests for commentary or anything. They were directed to the company's corporate offices, but all they were told was, "We check everything."
Obviously not.
Obviously not, because this is also not the first time this has happened. Now, it wasn't in Florida the first time. This was in Louisiana before.
In Lake Charles.
In Lake Charles. But it was another 11-year-old. We don't know what game he purchased, but we do know that an 11-year-old got a hold of a game, and inside that box there was meth. And there also are cops, like, this is being reported from KPLC, this was last September, and, you know, so this was an official news station that spoke to police and said, yes, this is meth, and...
So, understand what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with one of two very large epidemics here. Either one, the employees at these individual stores are not doing their jobs, checking the games for potential harmful substances, or two, we have a bigger epidemic in this country of an 11-year-old meth ring being done through games, through GameStop.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you're asking me, and basically this is what either story covers, is just that they found the meth in the game. Did either store bother to check the rest of the discs in the store?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because how much more meth is hiding there at your local GameStop? That would be my first question. Like, if this one has meth, what else has meth? If I get a copy of Skyrim, will that have weed in it? Like,
my question is, what happens when the cops they hear, okay, this was found at this GameStop? Do the cops go into GameStop with drug dogs? Like, maybe they should, because... Like, how does that even... Also, maybe the bag of meth was meant for somebody else?
That would be one thing to do. Like, somebody turns in a game, or somebody just acts like they're looking through games, pockets it there in a copy of a game they don't think somebody's going to pick up. That would be the smart thing to do. And then the other person comes in, acts like they're looking through a game, picks it up. That'd be a really smart way of doing that.
Because now, granted, I used to work for EB Games, alright? And this was, like, right after GameStop bought EB Games. And, yeah, you would open up each of the boxes to insert the disc or whatever, but if this is like the picture you see here, there's like a piece of tape inside the game manual. Like, nobody opens the game manual. That's the thing.
Right.
So you can open up boxes and check to make sure discs are where they're supposed to be or whatever, and make sure there is a manual in there.
Well, see, that's the thing about GameStop, though. Don't they make sure that the disc is behind the counter? Same with the manual? Like, usually the
No, they don't keep the manual behind the counter. No, it's only the disc. It gets stuck in this big old CD rack.
Right.
And the disc gets slipped into a little paper sleeve.
Right.
And then you have to go picking through. It's all listed in alphabetical order. You pick the disc out that the person is purchasing. Take the disc out of a little paper sleeve. Open up the box. Put the disc in the box. Close the box. Sometimes you put the receipt in where the manual goes also,
Right.
and then you put it in the bag, and then you hand the bag to the customer, okay, bye. No, the manuals don't tend to come out of the box. They stay in the box.
So that would be a safe bet that the person doing this was aware that that's how they package their games on the shelf.
Yes, yes.
So could this have been an inside job?
It could either have been an inside job, or like you were saying a second ago, maybe it was intended for somebody else. The manuals get left in the box. Somebody goes in there, opens up a box, and just tapes a bag of meth in there, puts it back on the shelf, and says, "Alright, pick up at the GameStop. It's the GTA 5 in the used section."
See, like, this... The way that we're describing this almost sounds like this is a comedy Seth Rogen would have written.
Which would never have been funny if it was
him doing it. But I'm saying that you can't write this stuff. This happened twice.
Yeah, this happened twice. In 2 different parts of the country. Halfway across the country from one another.
So, Florida, that's one. Louisiana, that's another. If we follow the trend... I don't know, somewhere else on the Gulf Coast.
Nevada.
No, Nevada's not on the Gulf Coast. You need to do something... Mississippi. It would have to be a Mississippi GameStop. If you're just doing like...
Oh, you want to get in between the two.
Right.
You don't want to go all the way, the rest of the way across the country. You just want it to be more tight-knit.
Yeah, see if it's localized... Or if it's out in, like, Nevada, and we hear about another 11-year-old. But see, that's the weird thing about it. It was 11-year-olds both times. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times, 11-year-old drug ring.
Because, admittedly, the woman does say, because the stories were so very similar, she says, "Yeah, I keep getting messages saying I'm a troll, I stole a story, so I decided to Google it, and find all these stories about it, and now I'm pissed that they let it happen again." So, I mean, to an extent, yeah, that makes sense, but you should also be pissed that you bought your son an M-rated game to begin with. I'm sorry, like that, again, maybe her son is really mature. Maybe he's a really mature 11-year-old, and maybe she thinks you know what, maybe that's what you get when you buy your 11-year-old's M-rated games. You get meth! And like, that's just what you get!
Like, how much younger are you gonna buy a kid something to get them drugs? Like, the baby just learned to take 12 steps, they buy a game, and now they have to take a 12-step program. That's terrible.
That was a joke, right?
Yes.
That was a joke.
It was terrible.
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 So I really don't think that it's a joke. I don't think that she stole the story, because there is this copy of the police report here.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty positive it's real.
Wait, go back and read...
So, what? What are you looking for here?
What is the suspect's name?
Well, the mother is Kayla McAllister.
Well, then who's the name there at the top of the police report? Not Larry Smith. Go right.
Pamela Anderson? That's the name
Baywatch Pamela Anderson?
That's their supervisor in Florida. The cop, his supervisor is
Were they
Pamela
busted
Anderson.
by Baywatch? Is that what happened here?
Is Baywatch in Florida? I don't think it is.
I forget. We'll have to ask Allison. She does that.
Yeah, she does that.
Okay.
I don't watch Baywatch.
Yeah, let's get it out of here.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know why you were going off about that. That was unimportant, Josh.
I'm just trying to bust this 11-year-old drug ring, all right?
Okay.
I'm trying to crack the case.
Thank you.
Before they have nap time.
Okay, Hellboy.
Hellboy, or for some people, Hell No Boy, based off love.
Hard to say, yeah.
Okay, so of course, like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, Guillermo del Toro, who had previously directed the last 2 Hellboy movies, really the only 2 other Hellboy movies, Hellboy and Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, was in meetings along with the studios and Ron Perlman to see about getting a 3rd movie off the ground, because for the longest time he had this idea for a trilogy, and they were finally going to get to the point that we were all hoping for, with Hellboy having to accept his role as the bringer of the apocalypse. Well, that didn't go through at all, and Guillermo unfortunately told us all on Twitter it's not going to happen.
It's really disappointing. There was some report saying that the financing just wasn't going to be there for the kind of movie he wanted to do. I think that was reportedly part of it. And yet financing is here for a reboot. And I'm just wondering, did you figure out a way to make it cheaper to produce? Maybe because they're gonna get, I don't know, a new cast or something?
Well, yeah, they are getting a new cast. So this new one is going to be directed by Neil Marshall, and Hellboy himself has been recast as David Harbour, who most people would know most recently from Stranger Things, as the sheriff there in the town. Now,
in the face, I can kind of
no,
see
like
it,
I absolutely think David Harbour could do it. The problem is there was nothing wrong with Ron Perlman at all.
No,
he was perfectly
no.
cast as Hellboy.
Although if you're gonna do a reboot, I suppose it doesn't make sense to put the same actor in the reboot. That would make it a little confusing.
I get that. It's the same argument from going from Andrew Garfield to Tom Holland, the confusion issue. But at the same time, there was nothing wrong with the person in front of it. Now, say what you want about scripting, but those two individuals, you know, Andrew Garfield for Spider-Man and Ron Perlman for Hellboy, I thought they were just fine for the role. But I think
others would argue against. I kind of agree with you, but I know there's lots of people who don't agree. That
I understand,
Andrew Garfield
and those people are allowed their opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
That having been said, so yeah, now we've got, you know, just like you say, you don't have financing, and all of a sudden, hey, new deal. We're getting the movie now. So my thing about it...
Is that kind of a stab to the gut for Guillermo del Toro?
And Ron, like, they're not happy about it.
Have they said so? They said they weren't happy?
If you look on Twitter, them and a few other people are trying to be nice about it. Let's put it that way. But the thing about
they're grinning and bearing it.
Yeah, because you want to be good sports. You know, Hollywood, you still got to play the game. The thing about it here is, you know, yeah, budget was a big issue before. And looking at those other Hellboy movies, one of the great things about both of those movies is, yeah, they were CG enhanced, but Guillermo loves, and still does in most of his movies, the hands-on practical effects.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. And I didn't really know anything about Hellboy prior to the films, but I was very interested in the property after those films, because I felt like they did such a good job using practical effects, only a little bit enhanced by CG in order to tell the story, and it got me very interested. I thought they did a good job.
And for what it's worth, both stories were very well told. You know, great casting there. You know, Ron Perlman, Doug Jones, the late John Hurt. And those movies did progressively better. The first one, which came out back in 2004, that did 99 million. And then the second one did 160 million. So it was getting better, but it still wasn't good enough for studios. Which is why it was so hard to secure financing for a third one all the way up till now when they finally said we're not doing it.
And yet they thought there was enough interest to make a reboot.
Well, clearly there's interest, especially with Ron Perlman and Guillermo up until recently.
But that's the thing. It had interest because of those names attached, too. Not just because it was Hellboy.
Well, I was saying because of them getting on Twitter and asking people, how many of you guys want to see the third one? And them getting a very large crowd response from people retweeting and liking, saying, yeah, we want this movie. Bring us this movie.
It sounds like the studios are very confused as to what people actually wanted. Like, they missed the point entirely.
Right, and that happens. You know, studios sometimes don't know what's good for them. A lot of times that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
But here, I do get the argument for a reboot in that it's been so long since the last movie, 2008. Yeah, we're going on 10 years now. So yeah, I get it there.
But by that same token, why are we getting a sequel to Blade Runner?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we can have sequels to Blade Runner and Star Wars and not worry about...
Let's go 30 years and make a sequel, but let's not do 10 years.
And based off that, because people are going out to see those movies, that argument doesn't hold up, that we needed to reboot that bad. You could have just put the money into a sequel and let them tell the story they wanted to tell. So, yeah, you can see the argument one way or another as to why they would want to do a reboot. I'll look at the positives here. Yes, David Harbour is a very good actor. I can see him in the role of Hellboy. I'll just have to warm up to him, I guess.
Yeah, I think, I don't necessarily think that what we're looking at is the signs of a bad movie.
No.
There's no way of telling right now, obviously. There just isn't.
Right.
We do need to give it... We owe it that shot. But at the same time, I think we all feel like, well, what we were asking for was something different, and that's not what the studios are ultimately giving us.
Well, yeah, because the thing about it is, to me, it's the argument of if it's not broke, don't fix it. And they weren't broke. The movies were doing better.
Yes.
The people were willing to work on it, so it must have been something with, like, again, budgeting. So what I'm worried about based off that is, I don't have a problem with the director.
Right.
I don't have a problem with the new casting of Hellboy. My question then comes down to, well, what is expensive is practical effects, so is this one going to look cheaper? You know, going for more CG overlay and things like that.
Right.
Because it's very tempting to go that route when you're doing a sci-fi movie, especially something like this, with all these demonic creatures and special effects and otherworldly weapons. Yeah, you would want to give into the temptation to do CG everything and save money where you can very quickly.
So long as tonally it's approximately the same, I am totally willing to give it the shot. I'm concerned about the tone, about where the tone is going to go.
Now, there's another big difference going into this one is the R rating. Because Hellboy opened wide, and you know, audiences of a certain age could go see it, you know, PG-13. But going into this one, they're going for something darker, and they've said as much here in interviews about the movie that what they want is a darker take on it, that it'll be more horror-oriented, more gruesome, which sounds better, but that doesn't always mean a better product.
Right, that's very true. It's all about execution.
Yes. Because, some people are bringing up here in the chat, Fan4tastic tried to be darker, and that screwed up royally. Royally! I can't emphasize that enough. I wasted money on that. But here, like, granted, we want to see more of the macabre, Lovecraftian sort of things that Hellboy has to offer. And, you know, Mike Mignola, the original creator there, is signing off on this, saying, yeah, we're gonna bring you guys a good product. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you can say that because it's your baby.
You say that now.
But
there's a lot of creators who have not been satisfied with their film adaptation after the fact, after they already signed off on it.
We're looking at you, Todd McFarlane. Point being, hopefully this won't have those same trappings. Just the same, I do want to give it the shadow of the doubt. I do want to see who they end up casting for this movie to fill out everybody else. Who we get back as Abe, as Dr. Broomholt, as any of the other cast members that we'll be seeing there. Maybe we'll get Lobster Johnson in this one. Point being, it's coming, and there's no fighting this one.
Right.
So, I guess, to a certain extent, all of us have to kind of suck it up and just see where they go with this.
That's an unfortunate way of phrasing it. That's just where I'm going to leave it off at, that I'm feeling a little torn, because I'm down with seeing what they can do. It's just, we were just a few months ago talking about the possibility of how cool would it be to have this third one with these people attached, and then they said no to it, and what they gave us instead was something completely different, even though that's not what we asked for.
Right.
That's why I am feeling torn. I'll give it its chance, but if you disappoint me, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm going.
You're not gonna go to the movie.
I'm going to be disappointed. Well, I'm gonna go. Like, how can I judge it if I don't go see it?
Well, yeah, but all the same, like, if it doesn't look good,
just don't go.
Yeah,
I understand.
So yeah, let's go ahead and leave that one.
All right.
And let's go ahead and leave some time to talk about this last one, which we can go on for a bit. So our third story here is, of course, talking about the Power Rangers reboot movie. Now, you'll notice here in the background footage from Power Rangers, the thing it came from.
In fact, it's interesting here a little bit before what you're seeing right now. It'll loop again here in a minute. But they're showing not only footage from our Power Rangers, but they're also tying it back to, also, this is the Super Sentai footage that it's using.
So let's go ahead and clarify here. What you're watching right now is a commercial that's airing in Japan for this new Power Rangers
commercial trailer, what have you,
for this new Power Rangers movie that already came out here in America. Now, for those of you who don't know, just going over it briefly, we got Power Rangers because Saban originally licensed the Japanese property Super Sentai to distribute it over here, but just splice in American actors and a little bit of new footage to make what we call now Power Rangers.
So what we got, for the most part, in 1993, for the most part, the suit footage was Japan's, the fight footage was Japan's, the monster footage, the robot footage was Japanese footage, and then what we spliced in, you can see all the American actors right there, right now. They're the dudes we spliced in, and then we tried to combine these two things and say they were the same thing. Back in the day, when we were talking about doing that sort of thing with Robotech or something, you might get really, really mad. And yet this took way the hell off.
Yes.
This is all a story we already know. We've repeated this I don't know, countless, most people are aware that it's Japanese footage by now.
Now, the thing about it is that, as we noted for the last year going into the debut of the Power Rangers reboot, it seemed very much that they were trying to distance themselves from the original footage, which could be at times childish or wacky, much like Super Sentai. But the thing is, they wanted to go for a darker tone for the movie, more realistic, more gritty, and that's what mostly they delivered on in that reboot. And of course, we did our review on that, which you can watch over on Kalen's channel. Point being, the Japanese, they've always had Super Sentai, and they even dubbed back Power Rangers into Japanese so they can watch it and absorb it. So what this trailer is doing is essentially marketing to that sensibility of knowing that this audience knows this franchise, knows where it comes from. And you'll notice there, while they're showing the American footage, not only are they listing the American name of the season, like Zeo, Turbo, in space, underneath it there's a subtitle of the corresponding Super Sentai series.
The Japanese series, yeah.
You know, O-Ranger, Car Ranger, Mega Ranger.
When they put when they list Mighty Morphin, right next to it they list Jew Ranger underneath it, because that's the source series that it came from. So then they finally get to the new movie footage, the 2017 film footage, and on top of that, while we've got it muted right now, it's playing Go Go Power Rangers,
the original version
from 1993 from the television series, and they're choosing to use clips of people saying it's Morphin time and saying Go Go Power Rangers, and they've got this creative editing that I kind of like. It's going to show here in about another few seconds, where they do this really Japanese kind of editing of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people all the way across the screen. It's such a Japanese thing to do. I think it's going to be any second now, because I really want to make sure you guys see exactly what I'm talking about here. And I think it's going to be right about... Oh,
waiting for it. Come on.
That's what I'm talking. That's super Japanese style editing, and I feel like, man, if they had given us that trailer before anything else, I would have been really tricked into thinking, wow, that's Power Rangers.
Yes.
You know, I would have had this totally different tonal idea of what this movie is going to be. And now my concern is the Japanese are seeing a trailer like this, and they're like, yeah, we're going to see Power Rangers and something that's based on Super Sentai. And then they're going to see the movie, and it's going to be wrong, and it's going to be different, and they're going to reject it.
Like we mentioned there, and it's been some time, so I guess we can go ahead and talk about it in a little more detail. All of the action footage that you see in the trailers is what you get in the movie. It's basically the last 20 minutes of the movie, and it goes by in a very quick 20 minutes. And that's what they're showing here in the trailer that we're showing behind us. So the idea is that, are they selling them something based off nostalgia versus what the actual product they're going to be getting is, which is nothing like it at all.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting. I was having this conversation with you a few days ago about why is it that we as Americans fell in love with Power Rangers in the first place. You can say that you did eventually fall in love with the characters.
Which I did.
Yeah, I think we all did. We all came to love Billy and Trini and Zach and Tommy and Jason
and Kimberly.
And yeah, we did grow to love them. However, had it just been a show about these 5 to 6 teenagers, you would have had Saved by the Bell. And you would have already been watching a show like that to begin with. You're not watching a bunch of stunts, and like you're watching a cute little teenage sitcom. But what really got your like, you can't lie, guys.
I'm not gonna lie about it.
You cannot lie. What gripped you was that you had never seen fight footage and stunt footage like that in a children's television show before.
Right.
It just had never happened over here before. So suddenly you're seeing this Japanese footage, and you're seeing these dynamic poses.
Yes.
You're seeing pyrotechnics.
Yes.
You're seeing giant monster battles.
Yes.
Whether you know this happened to you or not, what you fell in love with was Super Sentai. You got hooked by the Super Sentai stuff. And what is missing from the 2017 Power Rangers film? It's mostly the Super Sentai stuff. And so this editing of this trailer here, it's brilliant. mind you.
Yes, it is brilliant.
Because it's tying it back to everything Super Sentai and everything that we fell in love with before, but that's not what the movie is.
None of that is in the movie, though. That's the
Yeah.
problem. And the way you encapsulated it the other day when we had this conversation is beautiful. Whether America knows it or not, or whether the world at large, other than, you know, the East is aware, you're already in love with Super Sentai. You just never realized it.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I remember being 8 years old and watching the trailers leading up to Power Rangers, and the characters, you know, Jason and Kimberly and everybody, they were there a little bit, but what got me was these colorful superheroes and this giant robot fighting this giant monster. Because I had seen giant monsters before, but I'd never seen anything like that combated before. I mean, yeah, my frame of reference would be like
And
Mechagodzilla.
certainly not during, like, the Saturday morning time block.
No, yeah, I'd have to be watching some other channel where they're having a Godzilla marathon, but for this was right up my alley. It was aimed at me, which is just what it is in Japan.
Yes.
So yeah, that phrasing is very true. I fell in love with Super Sentai and I didn't even realize it. And I've told that story about how I had seen some Winspector footage and I didn't know what it was until I was in my 20s. And I knew that was something I was into. So yeah, whether we realize it or not, we've been exposed to tokusatsu. It is a thing over here. You just don't realize how much of it you've absorbed.
Yeah.
It's in your system. And as such, that's why we had the reaction we did to the movie when it came out, because all of that stuff was removed. Because you're looking at this stuff, and it's dynamic, it's action-packed, you know, they're doing things, they're posing, it's strong, it makes you feel something, there's a visceral reaction to it. And yes, you will have a reaction to the interplay between these 5 teenagers who aren't necessarily good people, but they form a bond between each other, and that's nice, and that's a decent story. But it's not Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And that's been our argument since the movie came out. How much more is the Japanese culture going to react to that when they see it and realize that's not there?
And is it possible that they're going to like the movie? Sure it is.
Yes,
it's
it is
absolutely possible. I'm just saying that the marketing is all wrong. The
Yes.
marketing is selling a completely different product. It's a different product than what they're going to end up getting. And again, they're kind of the next target audience you would think that they would want to be marketing this movie
like we were
toward.
saying, China gets it this weekend.
Yes.
And a lot of the Hollywood box office does rely on the international receipts. A lot of that now is China.
Yeah.
But of course,
But
people
China, I'm not so certain China cares as much about Tokusatsu or Power Rangers. They care about whether or not there's Chinese influence in a movie.
Which there is in
Which
this.
there is, and which is the reason why it's able to air in China at all. To my understanding, there has to be like a certain amount of positive Chinese representation in a movie for it to even be shown in Chinese theaters at all to begin with. And that's what Power Rangers is possibly going to give them. They're basing the entirety of the finances that they're hoping to receive back on the character of Zack. It's based entirely on how much they like Zack.
That's entirely true. But for Japan, of course, it means a little bit more because we wouldn't have Power Rangers without them.
Yes.
So that is going to mean something to see what their reaction is going to be. Now, admittedly, I've had this conversation with you and some other people that Japanese cinema in general can be a little bit more slower paced.
It's slow paced. The acting typically in Japanese cinema is very rigid. A lot of just standing there, and you take a couple of steps forward to try and emphasize a line. If somebody walks away and you try and stop them and say, "Wait, come back, Shunpei," but you don't actually follow after them, you just stand there looking at them, watching them walk away, and you don't stop them. That's Japanese acting for you, and a lot of it is stuck very rigidly in like kabuki theater, and it's never
in that tradition,
and it's never left their system.
So based off that, I do think yes, there is a possibility that they're going to like the movie for
there's
what it is.
There's some rigidness
because there's some rigidness, and the action is only so much. But I'm wondering just how hard they're going to hold on to that, because comparing it to other major Super Sentai releases in the last couple of years, I'm talking specifically about the 199 Heroes movie from Gokaiger, the people who came back to the franchise, you know, who grew up with it in the 70s and the 80s and then became adults and then became parents and brought their kids into it, they've had the culture for twice as long as we've had.
Yes.
So understand that. It means more to them than it does to us, because we're still in this kind of weird holding pattern with how we treat our Rangers. They're not here we see them as actors. To them, they're heroes.
Well, also realize people of our generation are the first generation to have received this in America, whereas the first generation to have received it in Japan came 20 years before us.
Right.
So you've got 60-year-olds who are still... who will look at Super Sentai and go, this reminds me of childhood. You don't have 60-year-olds in the United States who understand that. You have 30-year-olds who understand how powerful and influential Power Rangers can be, and we still look like really young, stupid people to the 60-year-olds, you know? So, that having been said, I think as a franchise, Super Sentai means a lot more to a lot more people in Japan than it does here in America. And in America, I know the Power Rangers fans want to say the Power Rangers movie did really super special awesome. It hasn't here. It barely broke even like 2 weeks ago, maybe? Something like that here in the US. And it was never #1 in the box office. It went up against Beauty and the Beast. It started at #2, had more than a 60% drop-off by the next weekend.
And that's saying something.
Yeah, so if we are to see a sequel, it has to be because of China and Japan.
Yes.
It's completely banking on them. It's not because of us. We will not save this movie. We can't.
We had our shot.
Yeah, it's over.
Mind you, we already had our qualms about it going into it, but we still paid for those tickets.
Yes.
Because for my money, yeah, I wasn't exactly 100% over the moon with the movie that I saw, but I give it its merits for what it showed me, and yes, I would watch a sequel if I saw that they were going to improve and be closer to the other footage they're showing in the background of this trailer. Because think about that, even though they're saying the subtitles there with the scrolling for what the corresponding Super Sentai series was, what we're seeing in the back, that's all Power Rangers footage.
Yeah.
That's all stuff we made to market this thing that we pulled footage from. You know, that's footage from...
And they never did that marketing with us.
Never once.
They never tried to make us think that we were gonna go watch a Power Rangers movie.
Yes.
They never tried to embrace where they got it from in the first place. For everything that I saw over the last couple of years, it looked like they tried to distance themselves as far away from Power Rangers as they could have possibly done so and still call it Power Rangers.
This might be a nitpick, you know, if you will. But for my sake, when they had the press conference back last summer for the Power Rangers movie, and they asked the cast after the Q&A was over to do a pose as a group, the only thing any of them could do was just your standard fists. What I was hoping for was everybody to do the traditional, you know, poses that we know the Power Rangers for. Those 5 Rangers. And I was like, y'all didn't even bother to learn those? Like, a kid at 5 to 7 years old learned those poses.
There's no... The film has no dynamic poses in them.
None.
They don't exist. So, that's basically where I want to leave it off. I feel like, man, this trailer would have been a fantastic movie. And I think Japan would have also loved the trailer.
Yeah, I guess I can say that.
The movie for the trailer that you're seeing right now, but I'm concerned that Japan is going to reject it once they realize what they're actually getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I want to leave it off at.
But we'll see once July rolls around.
Yes. Until then, we can find out what China thinks starting tomorrow.
That's true. Or is it tomorrow over there already?
It might be. Or
I think it is.
They might already be running.
Sure it's tomorrow.
We'll find out. We'll find out what they think.
We'll find out very soon.
Yes. So that's going to just about do it for the main bulk of our show. So thank you guys so much for coming out here tonight. As always, if you're with us here live right now, please stick around for another half hour so that we can hang out with you for another, like I just said, 30 minutes for Q&A time, so that you can ask us questions. We will give you our answers. If you're not here with us live right now, thank you for watching over on YouTube later on in the week or some other time in the future, but I would definitely like to see you come on down here at 9 p.m. Central on Thursday nights, so that you can also hang out with all these cool people live here, and get to check out the Q&A session that you otherwise never get to see.
Yes, and of course during the week you can always talk to us over on social media. On Twitter, I'm at JoshKnight1st.
And I'm at MarsGirl.
And that having been said, that's been tonight's episode of Beyond the Black Rims. We will see you guys again next week.
Thanks, guys! Yay!
But don't go.
Don't leave.
Don't actually go.